Hello, everybody. I'm Nigel A. James, and this is the Parletorium, a free talking conversation round. Our subject this morning is loneliness, and our guest is Maxi B. Maxi, thank you very, very much.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Maxi, we're talking about loneliness. What is loneliness for you?
Well, I think there are several, there is no real definition of loneliness that fits every type of loneliness. I think there are several types. Um, but all in all, I think loneliness is being on one's own. And yes, but the situations can be different depending.
Loneliness is being on one's own, you say. Um, but many people are on their own but are not lonely. Is there a touch of depression about it, a negative aspect to it?
Yes, maybe. It could be that people who are lonely don't know what they or just don't know what they want to do, or have no friends, maybe. And yeah,
Maxi, may be because they have no friends. Why don't people have any friends?
maybe because they don't go out as often, or and like to stay for themselves, and just don't fit in with other groups of people because they just aren't they just don't feel well with other people.
Or maybe they're being rejected by other people. What do you say to that?
That is a possibility. There could be cultural differences, social differences that could lead to this rejection of people by other people and groups, of course. And I think it always depends on the situation itself.
Could you, what kind of situations do you mean?
Well, social situations or cultural situations where people from different cultures don't fit in if they, for example, move to a different country and have difficulties adapting. That would be what I mean.
Okay, well, so what age groups suffer most of all from loneliness?
I think every age group suffers from loneliness. I don't think there's a specific age group per se. I think that it has a lot to do with just the current situation people are in. And as we mentioned, there is this kind of depression um, attached to loneliness. So maybe it could be a symptom of a situation in one's life where one doesn't feel well and doesn't want to go outside and loses touch with other people.
You mentioned cultures being lonely, different cultures. How is it for school children? Say you go to a school in Vienna and you come from a different country and you're basically lonely at school because no one wants anything to do with you. How do kids suffer from this? And what can we do about this?
Well, I think that kids they adapt quite quickly. But in the case of them might being lonely in class, which probably happens at the very beginning of the year, um, they will probably be quick to adapt if the others approach them and have conversations with them.
So it's to do with personality, then how well they adapt and things
Yes,
like this.
yes, yeah.
Um, an interesting question. Many people are, let's say, make people lonely without wanting to make people lonely.
Mhm.
Groups of friends, I see groups of people together, they're all on their handies, mobile phones, and
Mhm.
ignoring each other. Why does this ignoring make people feel lonely?
Because I think we are very social, and if one constantly gets ignored, then that has a negative feeling, I guess, that is attached to that. And yes, then it would make the people who are ignored feel lonely.
And you often see very young children being ignored by their parents.
Yeah,
Tell us what do you think of this?
I think it's a mistake from the parent side because a good parent should not ignore their child or their children. I think it's just a bad habit of the parents, and it would be the parents' job basically to not do that and take care of their children.
Is or should I say, how does personal contact, giving somebody a cuddle, help against loneliness?
Yeah, well, I think that definitely helps against loneliness. I think it's just, yeah, maybe the physical contact or, um, yeah, um, just the interaction that makes people happy.
So could it be that older people, especially living on their own, don't have this regular contact? They must be terribly lonely. Tell me about this.
Yeah, well, many old people, I'm not sure if most old people, but many are sent to homes where they more or less stay there for the whole year, and maybe their children and grandchildren visit them a few times. But other than that, they are mostly there on their own with the other old people, which they probably play cards with and spend most of their time sitting around, watching television, playing cards, or something else, and maybe going for walks. But that's fine and all. The social but it lacks the social interaction that everybody needs, in my opinion, and that lack would lead to loneliness and the occasional visits by their relatives will probably not be enough for them to feel better.
Would this be a good reason for people wanting to commit suicide, maybe?
Um, in some cases, probably, but not in general. I think there is no general reason one can say.
Okay, because loneliness leads to depression, and depression
It can lead to other, yeah,
can't it? Yeah.
yeah.
Well, what about the people who choose to live alone, cut themselves off from the world, like hermits, people like that?
Mhm.
What do you say about that?
Well, I think it's totally legitimate if somebody chooses to live like that. It's their life decision. Um, Loneliness can also be good if one likes being lonely. I think as I said, it depends on the person itself. But hermits, I think they enjoy living on their own, or they have their good reasons for living on their own. And sometimes loneliness can help a person to think over their decisions, maybe, or their life. And if somebody decides to live like a hermit and to live a lonely life, then that's totally legitimate. But it wouldn't be for everybody.
There's a distinction between loneliness and isolation.
Hmm.
A hermit chooses to live on his own
Hmm.
or on their own,
Hmm.
um, but they're not isolated because they still need the rest of society to get by. They need food, they need doctors, they need all these things. But what do you say to this angle? Is it really possible to choose to live totally isolated?
Well, I think in our time, not anymore. I mean, you could go to an island somewhere in the Pacific or somewhere and just decide to live there on your own, but sooner or later you'll be in contact with humans. So everybody's connected. There isn't really a place where one can live totally isolated, and I can't imagine anybody wanting to live like that. Um, but loneliness, if one chooses loneliness, then that is totally legitimate. Yeah.
Maxi, we've been speaking for almost 10 minutes
Mhm.
in this very, very short discussion. Before we wind it up, is there anything we've forgotten to say or should add about this topic?
Well, maybe that loneliness can be good and bad. Just to sum it up, it can be good and bad. It can lead to other problems, but it can also be very helpful for dealing with problems, in my opinion. If one has the time to think about his own life for a certain amount of time and not having to spend time during that with other people, I think this that it can be a self-reflective phase as well. Yeah.
Just one actual last question from me. I've just thought about it.
Hmm.
Um, One can slide into loneliness by ignoring other people,
Yes.
not willingly.
Hmm.
People who use handies a lot, for example, they're ignoring everyone else,
Hmm.
and then sooner or later they will become ignored. Um, is there a way back from that, or what can we do about this, especially with kids? Should we ban handies at schools, maybe?
Well, I think banning handies at school or banning handies wouldn't lead to any good results. I think it has to do with social norms, and those would have to change a little bit. Maybe just trying to introduce talking is a normal thing to do, but I think many people do that anyway. I think many people are not looking at their phones anymore as they used to do a few years ago. So maybe that has changed as well, and it could be changing in the future by itself.
So you mean the art of discussion is not quite as dead as everyone believes it to be?
No, it isn't.
Okay. Anything else, Maxi?
Oh, no.
Maxi B. Thank you very, very much for this very, very short and to the point discussion. This is a Parletorium episode. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.